A lot of the questions that I get, especially in the fall, revolve around my hunting gear. People ask what kind of bow I shoot, how heavy is it, what kind of arrows, what kind of broadheads, how long, how heavy. And so today's field tip is going to go through all of that stuff. All right, so we're going to start just by walking through the bow and arrow setup. Now, anybody that watched any of last year's elk hunting videos or some of the hog hunting videos that I did down south, you'll have seen this bow. This bow I've been hunting with for the last couple of years. It's an Osage orange. It was a self bow, and I'll talk a little bit about that here in a minute, but it's 64 inches overall. Currently, it's 62 pounds at 29 inches, which is my draw length. But the reason I said it was a self bow is last year, after 19 days of hunting elk, I finally ended up killing a bull. And when I got home, I took the backstrap sinew off that bull and I backed this bow with it. And so that just adds, that's one of the things I love about the type of archery and bow hunting that I do, is just the level of connection and the depth of the story that you have with your equipment. But when I can't remember exactly what the bow was as far as draw weight. It was probably in the mid 50s before I backed it. But as I said, now it's 62 pounds at 29 inches. On top of the sinew, I've got some copperhead skins, and those just, you know, they make the bow look really good, and then they also just add a little bit of protection to that sinew as far as moisture goes. I showed on some other videos this past summer, I showed the process of backing this bow with the snake skin, and then the sinewing process is something I covered over on my Patreon site. It is a two-piece takedown bow. I'm not going to take it apart right now, but again, that's something that I covered on the Patreon site as well. All right, so we're going to move on to the quiver. This quiver is made by Donnie Wilkerson over at Creek Walker Trading. It's a 5-arrow quiver, and Donnie has changed the design of his quiver several times, primarily focusing on the changes being on how the bow attaches to how the quiver attaches to the bow. And what he's settled on now are these rubber straps, which I really like. He had buckles on there previously that could kind of mar up the finish a little bit, but these things, you can put them on there super tight. They hold the quiver really steady. It doesn't move around. One thing that I will caution you about or say about this quiver is there's really not a lot of room between the bow handle and the quiver itself. And so if you just put the quiver on there, you might hit your thumb on the quiver itself. And so what I do is just take a couple of thick pieces of leather and just put them between the bow and the quiver itself, and it takes care of that. All right, so let's move on to the arrows. This is the most important part of a bow hunting setup, in my opinion. These are bamboo shafts. I got these from Dustin Black over at Mainly Primitive. Dustin makes some really nice bamboo shafts. They do have self-nocks on them. Now the broadheads that I'm using this year, these are 190 grain single bevel, right hand bevel, which matches my fletching, so right helical, right hand bevel. Like I said, 190 grain meat heads from Tough Head. These are really nice. I like the design of these heads, that 3-to-1 ratio, or more than that probably. But anyway, I've killed this. This is what I killed that bull with last year. I've killed several animals with those meat heads. The total arrow weight on these is about 630 grains, and I've got all my arrows matched within probably 10 or 12 grains of one another. The total FOC on these things, I haven't calculated that, but you can see that it's fairly high, probably, I don't know, 17-18%, something like that. And the other thing I like about these bamboo shafts is they're small diameter. These are only about 5/16 or so. All right, so that pretty much covers the bow and arrow. I've probably left something out, and if I have, if you've got any additional questions, just leave me a comment, and if it's something quick, I'll just put up a short video on Instagram or something like that. All right, so now what I want to do is go over the stuff. You've seen this box sitting here. This is my archery field kit, and I always, when I go on a hunting trip, I have this with me. Not if I'm backpacking, obviously, but if I'm on a backpack hunt, I'll just have it in the truck, you know, in case I have to make some repairs. So we're gonna go through this thing and see what's inside. Now, first thing is the box itself. Now, this really doesn't apply to anything that you're gonna be concerned with, but I think it's a cool story anyway. But this box has been around my folks' house ever since I could remember. This box was around. This is my mom's old makeup case, and she got it when she was a teenager. So this thing this has got some history. All right, so let's dive in and see what's in here. First off is a bow square. I mean, if you have to take your string off for some reason, or your bow comes unstrung and your knot comes off, untwists a little bit, this thing is gonna be pretty handy for getting your brace height and your knot height set back where it was. Got an extra bowstring. Always carry an extra bowstring, and I usually carry one in my pack while I'm hunting. Got a fletching jig in here in case I need to do some fletching. Extra fletchings. Got some string material. And a lot of the stuff that I'm gonna have in here might not be for me. There's always gonna be other guys out there, and you know, a lot of the times they're not gonna have this stuff. And so if you have extra things in there, maybe you're not gonna use it, but it's really gonna help to be able to help somebody out of a jam. And so along those lines, I've got multiple sizes of serving, because different people shoot different size nocks, and you need different servings to be able to match that. So to go along with that serving, I've got a little serving tool. Now a lot of this stuff you can get, there's gonna be a lot of stuff in here. I'm not gonna link to all this, but you can get a lot of this from Three Rivers. Now, again, this is what I was talking about with having extra stuff in there that you might not use, but maybe somebody else has a need for. These are components for carbon arrows. Got extra inserts in here, extra nocks, weights, things like that. I carry this Bonning Feather Dry. It's most of the time where we hunt, it's dry, but sometimes you do get heavy snow and maybe a little bit of rain and sleet and things like that. This stuff, you put it in a plastic bag, put your fletchings in there, and just kind of shake it around, and it kind of coats your fletchings with this water repellent powder. And it works pretty good. It tends to wear off fairly quickly, but it's better than nothing. So a little torch here for changing tips. Can of Prince Albert. So in this, I've got all kinds of stuff. I've got some hex heads, some field tips, extra broadheads, judo or two. I've got some dental floss in here. Honestly, I don't know why this is in here. Might in case I get a piece of jerky stuck in my teeth. I hunt with self bows, and so I always carry some wood glue with me, just in case you knock off a tip overlay or something like that. Having some wood glue is going to be real handy to put that back on. Got some string wax, a honing stone for broadheads, some fingernail polish. Got to stay up on the latest trends out there. Can't really tell what the color of this is, but you know, that's personal preference. What I use this for is a lot of times I'll hunt with self nocks, and I use this to tighten up the self nocks. So if you get a little overzealous and take a little bit too much out with the sandpaper when you're fitting these to your string, and sometimes they just loosen up over time. The more you shoot them, they'll get a little bit looser. But you can take some of this acrylic fingernail polish and paint in there and put a couple of coats on there, and it just helps build that up and tighten those things back up so they fit better on your string. It's not going to be applicable for very many people, but if you are hunting with self nocks, something to consider. Got a taper tool in here for obvious reasons, an extra tab, some fletching cement. We've got some Fletch Tight, and then also just some Duco cement. I got some ferrule tight for putting tips on, and then an extra clicker or two. And I've got this extra line. This is like decoy line. It's a little bit stiffer than the line, the string that comes on those clickers. And so that's always the first thing I do is just replace that. But if you're hunting with a clicker, sometimes things happen. You get snagged on brush and you bend that thing and it just doesn't work anymore. Carry an extra when you just throw it on there. And then the last thing I have in here is a point brush that has the same internal taper as your broadheads and your field tips. And this thing is made to be used with a drill, but in a bind you can just grab them with a pair of pliers and clean the inside of that tip out. And what this does, the biggest thing that it does, first of all, it cleans the inside of the tip out, makes your glue stick better, but it scarifies with these kind of rotational scratches, and it really, really helps those broadheads stick on the end of your shafts and not come off. And some sandpaper. What else is in here? Nothing. That's it. All right. That's my archery field kit. That's the bow and arrow setup that I'm going to be using this year. Like I said, if I've missed anything or if you've got additional items that you like to carry with you, leave them in the comments. And yeah, that's it. We'll see you next time. By the time you watch this, I'll probably be neck deep in elk, hopefully.